Chronic pain is people have chronic pain for a bunch of reasons. It's one of the biggest reasons is chronic inflammation, right? So in my book and in my model, I describe how all these things are interconnected. So chronic pain is chronic inflammation, which is also chronic oxidative cellular stress. The cellular stress is going to cause chronic pain because it's also causing chronic dehydration.
Welcome to the Radical Health Rebel podcast. I'm your host, Lee Brandon. This work started for me several decades ago when I started to see the impact I could make on people, helping them to identify the root cause of their health problems that no doctor could figure out, including serious back, knee, shoulder and neck injuries, acne and eczema issues, severe gut health problems, even helping couples get pregnant after several IVF treatments had failed. And it really moves me to be able to help people in this way. And that is why I do what I do and why we have this show. Welcome back to another episode of the Radical Health Rebel podcast, where we dive deep into all things health, wellness, and well, sometimes the weird and wonderful. Today, we've got an absolutely fascinating topic that might just blow your mind. We're talking about water, but not just any water. We're talking about structured water. Today, I'm joined by Benjamin Smith, author of Why You Are Sick, who's here to break it all down for us. Benjamin is going to explain what structured water is, how it's totally different from regular water we guzzle down every day, and get this, how it can help reduce chronic pain and improve your overall health. Yes, water can do all that. We'll also be getting some practical tips on how you can incorporate this magic water into your routine without breaking a sweat. So whether you're already a water enthusiast or you're just curious about how changing the water you drink could help manage pain, stick around. This is going to be an eye-opening chat. Benjamin Smith, welcome to the Radical Health Rebel podcast that's coming on the show.
Excuse me. Thank you for having me. A little frog in my throat.
No problem. So, Benjamin, to kick things off, could you share a little about your own journey into the health arena and how did you become interested in structured water?
So, how did the journey start here? Well, ever since I've been a kid, I've been interested in health, and basically, I've always asked a lot of questions. So, if you ask my dad, he'd tell you that that's all I did was ask questions as a kid, wanting to know why the sky's blue, why the grass is green, everything. And it annoyed him, obviously, but it helped me to do what I'm doing today. So fast forward, I went to college. I didn't get a degree. I went to Humboldt State here in California, United States. I like science. I studied a lot of science stuff. I like meteorology, sociology, biology, all the sciences I really liked. And so after I left college, I moved to the town I'm in now, and I started cleaning carpets. And so basically what happened was my friend said, "Hey, do you want to start detailing cars?" And so that's where you wax cars and wash cars. So I've been doing that for 30 years. And so in the meantime, I was always interested in health. And in 1985, backing up a little bit, my mom got the C word. I don't even like to say the word because we all know what that is. And it just brings negative connotations. And so I thought, oh, well, that's not good. I thought it was genetic like everyone else thinks. And, that in 2012 or in like 2007 or 8, my sister got diagnosed with the word and still didn't know anything really about it. I was still, just kind of, looking through health books and studying and reading articles, but kind of playing around, just learning. In 2012, she passed away from that. Then I started really getting into it. Like, this is not cool. Something's going on. Why? Always ask why. Why is this happening? I saw, like when I was a kid, I asked why. And in 2019, my real mom passed away. My stepmom is still alive. And in the meantime, in the last couple of years, I've had like good friends, dads and moms, and a lot of people I know pass away from that word, as well as diabetes, all kinds of stuff. I'm like, this is just absurd. And so about 4 years ago, I thought I'm going to become a health coach, so I can help people. So I took a class from this company called Primal Health Coaching, where they really, focus on primal ways of living, that's what I agree with. And so at the end, after my training, I thought, hey, I don't know if I want to really be a coach right now. And my friend said, why don't you write a book? I said, okay, I'll write a book. I just thought, okay, I'm going to write a book. How hard can that be? Well, yeah, I kind of misunderstood how hard that was going to be. Yeah. So, just for the listening audience, it was a long journey. I hired a company off of the internet. Said, we'll write your book for $500. I said, cool, nice, that's awesome. We'll have it done in 3 months. I said, sweet, now I'm going to be rich, and after 6 months, I'll be rich. Doesn't work that way. And so these people were writing my book. Well, actually, they asked me for a bunch of interviews, right, to know what my book was about, structured water, all these things we're going to talk about, and for like 10 hours in interviews. And then they wrote their first kind of not chapter, but even an intro. And I was like, these guys can't write. There was like third graders writing it. And so I read, I go, are you serious? And I go, well, we can change it. Let's talk about it. So I said, talk about it. I said, you can't write. I said, there's nothing to talk about. And so I got my money back from them, thank God. Found another person to help me write my book, another ghostwriter. They're called ghostwriters. And this person, I know it's kind of a long story, but it's just kind of, helped to, bring some maybe laughter to the audience. So the next person I had, they've been writing for 30 years. And so they started, same thing, they asked me a bunch of questions. We did a bunch of interviews so they could help, with the writing of the book. And this lady couldn't write either. I'm like, can anybody write? And so, yeah, she wrote, it was really technical, asked, a bunch of facts in my book. And I thought to myself, no one's going to read this. And so then I found another person who was able to write the foundation of my book, but she couldn't write either. And when I say she couldn't write, she was better than the other people, but it still was just, it didn't have my voice. And so I had to buckle down for the last 3 years and write. So I started writing, and I'd write, something, I'd throw it away, or I'd throw my laptop on the ground, almost break it because I was so pissed off. And I just kind of one day woke up after talking to my stepmom, and she said to me, just write like you don't care, like you don't give a shit. And that's what I did. I just wrote from my heart, and I wrote in first person. And I don't know if that's something you can learn or if you just have to be born with it. And so I just had that gift. I just would start writing. I said, just pretend like I was talking to you. I'd write. Mm. And lo and behold, everyone loves my book. I got 23 5-star reviews. I have no bad reviews at all. And everyone that reads it loves it. And I'm just like, wow, I didn't even take writing classes. I just wrote, and people love my book. And so I'm really grateful and blessed. I'm really happy, and so that's kind of what happened. We have a website called Ultimate Health Model, because what we did was I created a model and a blueprint that describes ultimate health and ultimate disease. Really, it's called, it's a chronic disease model, and what causes it, and all the factors that cause it, and all the things going on in the background in your health that are causing it. And then I created on the other side, it's the model, or the part of the blueprint that's for your optimum health. And it's really that simple. I made it as super simple as I can, so a 5-year-old could understand it. And that's it. Uh-huh. That's what I did.
So what's the name of the book?
It's called Why Are You Sick? And How to Reclaim Your Health with the Ultimate Health Model.
Yeah, that makes sense. Does what it says on the tin, right?
On the cover, yeah.
Absolutely. It was quite interesting this morning. So most mornings I get up, I have a water filter. I filter the water, it gets remineralized. And then I have I don't know if you're familiar with the analemma wand to restructure the water.
I don't know that particular thing,
Okay.
but I know a lot about structuring water.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it was quite interesting. So I've had this thing, I don't know, 18 months, 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I just finished stirring the water, restructuring it. And I put it down. So it lives in a box because it's quite delicate. So
Mm-hmm.
I always put it back in the box. And as I put the box down, for some reason, I wasn't thinking what I was doing. The box was upside down. Now, most of the time, that still wouldn't be an issue, but for some reason, the box managed to come open and the wand hit the floor. And I thought, okay, well, it's in a solid container. It'll probably be all right. And I picked it up and opened it, and just glass just fell out everywhere.
Oh no!
And these things
Not good.
aren't exactly cheap. And I thought it's quite ironic that we're doing this interview today, and that actually happened this morning, which I thought
Interesting.
was a little ironic. So before we get any deeper, can you explain what structured water is and how it differs from regular water? Amina was a 32-year-old personal trainer and mother of 3 when she came to see me. Amina, whilst training to run a marathon, experienced lower back pain and sciatica. Amina's back pain meant that she couldn't run without pain and had completed her last marathon in a disappointing time for her. Amina wanted to complete a half marathon in under 1 hour 50 minutes, eliminate her back pain, and get back to running full distance marathons. I devised a corrective exercise program for Amina to realign her postural imbalances and help improve her stability, which she completed for 30 minutes a day, 5 days a week. After working with me for a few months, Amina completed a half marathon in 1 hour 45 minutes, beating her target time by 5 minutes, and now she has no lower back pain or sciatica. Amina has since gone on to complete several full distance marathons, finishing with good times. If you'd like to achieve similar results to Amina, you can contact me at www.bodycheck.co.uk to secure your consultation. Now, back to the podcast.
Yeah. So what structured water is, it's an altered molecular arrangement of water molecules in a structured pattern. Okay? What do I mean by that? So structured water is water, like I said, that has structured itself together in a pattern. And so think of something like ice or a crystal or a diamond. Anything that's a crystal is in a structured pattern. The difference between carbon, and so let's talk about carbon really quick, and then we'll go back and then we'll explain how that relates to structured water. Carbon is an element on the periodic table. Now, carbon is the dirt outside, brown dirt. That's called because it's carbon. But carbon is also turns into pencil lead graphite, which is a molecular arrangement of atoms, but they're not in a structured pattern. It's more of a loose arrangement. A diamond is the most precious thing on earth. Really, everyone loves diamonds. Are highly prized. Diamonds are an extremely complicated, complex, structured pattern. Okay, that's why it's a crystal. It's this incredibly structured geometry of molecules of carbon. Okay, so so back to the water and also as well as carbon. It's not the element that matters as much. It still matters, but it's the way it's structured. So the structure of something is more important than what it is. Okay, for the listening audience, does that make sense? The structure of something is more important than what the element is. It's not about the element; it's about how it's structured and the way the water's structured around it. Okay, the more complex and complicated and intricate this structure is, the more information can be passed in nature and in the body. Everything we do in society destructures the water. Whether you put it in pipes, whether you pollute it with chemicals, whatever you're doing is destructuring it. Everything we do, the food we eat, the thoughts we think, it's destructuring it. And so the more you destructure it, the more the body has to structure it itself, because the body has to structure it to use it. So 50%, approximately 50% of your energy. Okay, I'm going to say approximately, because if someone calls us out on this or something, said, well, it was only 47.3%. I don't know the exact numbers, but it's approximately 50% of your energy goes to structuring water every single second of every day of your life. If you drink it structured, what do you think is going to happen? It's going to save you a lot of energy, a lot of, right, to do other things. So that's what structured water is. It's found in nature. All water that's found in nature is basically structured water in this molecular pattern. And so what it is, it's liquid. Water is a liquid crystal. You know, they have liquid crystal displays in your TV and in computers, all these things. A liquid crystal is a crystal that can move around like a school of fish. So they still structure together in these patterns, right? But they can unstructure into something else instantaneously too. So it's not like it's a solid like piece of ice, right? Let's kind of, for the audience, meaning that it's not staying like that like all the time. So that the molecules move apart and come together into different structured patterns billions of times a second. It's basically instantaneous. So it looks like it's all, say, structured together, because, you know, obviously molecules also vibrate and move together. Everything's energy, so it's all just kind of moving together. But it's coming together so fast, even 1 trillion times a second, that it almost looks like it's solid. Make sense?
So what would the difference in structure be between structured and, if you like, unstructured water?
So just like I said, so when it's structured, it is in a pattern. So they're like small little clusters of water clusters. And so what they do is they form these hexagonal type shapes. That's just one shape it can form. Okay, and so and we'll talk about when the destructured part of the water is after you talk about that structure. So when it's structured, it's in this little pattern. So imagine a beehive, a bee's eye, a beehive. You know how the hexagons, you know, you have all the different, and so these fit together infinitely. That's when hexagon's a perfect shape, because it fits together for infinity, because they can stay they fit together exactly in a pattern. There's no empty spaces. It just fits together. So also what happens with structure, so it's the molecules are coming together. What do I mean by that? Water is a polar molecule, meaning that from just basic, 8th grade chemistry, water is hydrogen and oxygen. There's 2 hydrogens and 1 oxygen. The hydrogen are positively charged. The oxygen is negatively charged. So for people who might not understand chemistry, just from a basic point of view, they're like Lego blocks. They come together. Positive and negative attract each other. So imagine like Lego blocks coming together and making things. So the positive side on the hydrogen side goes to the oxygen side, the negative charge, and the negative charge goes to the positive charge of the hydrogen side. And so they make these molecules. And then what happens is when they're structured like that, they have a net negative charge, because of the mathematics and the ratios of how much oxygen and how much hydrogen is in each molecular structure when the molecules come together. Because half is oxygen, and there's a quarter on hydrogen. So if you do the math, it's a net negative charge when it comes together in these molecules. And so that means there's more electrons too in each one, and electrons are really important for the flow of life. So when you have the more negative charge you have in your body and in your cells, the better off you are. Unstructured water is just the opposite. The molecules are not coming together in these patterns. So you're not getting the negative charge. You're not able to pass the information either because they're not coming together. And so with water molecules, they're basically they hold all information. I write in my book that water is where everything is stored. All information since the beginning of time is stored in water. So if you have unstructured water, it can't hold information. I know it might sound a little woo-woo to some of the audience, but that's the truth. Mm-hmm. And so everything we're doing, so when you destructure it, your body has to structure it to use it in some aspects. So it's going to take energy to put the molecules together. And then once they're together like that, then they also can hydrate the cells better. When they're unstructured, they cannot get into the cell through the cell membrane as easily as when it's structured. That's why when you drink structured water, you feel more hydrated than when you're drinking unstructured water for that same reason. So for some of the listening audience, they'll go drink, a quart of just regular water and go, I'm still thirsty. Then they go drink a cup of structured water and go, wow, I feel great. I feel hydrated. That's one of the reasons why.
So when you were talking about the hexagonal shapes,
yeah,
what sprang to mind was the the hidden messages in water by Dr. Emoto, and obviously, when he was exposing the water crystals to positive emotions, they often formed hexagonal type shapes, didn't they? But then when he exposed the water to negative emotions, they didn't form any kind of natural shape.
There's your answer right there. Yeah. And so to piggyback off of that, that's correct. So everything we're doing in society, whether it's negative emotions, stress, eating bad food, which is causing stress on the cells, it's all related. So by his experiments, and there's other people who have done experiments even far greater than that. So let's just go into something that's the audience might basically, I hope they're sitting down for this because it's going to blow their mind. So on the topic of water being the information carrier of everything in the entire universe, which it is, I believe, there's a lady named Veda Austin, and she's in New Zealand. And I met her at a water conference about 4 months ago in San Diego, California, because I went to this water conference because I'm basically obsessed with water. I just find it fascinating. And so she was there. And what she did and what she has done is she has taken Emoto's experiments to the next level. What do I mean by that? She's done thousands and thousands of experiments with water. What she does is she puts water in a petri dish and then talks to it, puts music next to it, puts colors next to it, puts pictures next to it, whatever it is. And she gets these different patterns in the water when she freezes it. One thing she did was she played the song Stairway to Heaven and had the water sitting next to it. When she froze the water, guess what was found in the water?
No idea.
A stairway.
Oh, wow.
You want to hear something even more remarkable than that? That was impressive, but this is going to make people either sit down or fall down. She asked her cat. Now, just really she asked her cat if it wanted to go in or out. And she had water sitting next to her. Okay. She froze the water, pulled it out of the freezer, and there was a message in the water, and it said in. That revolutionizes what we know about everything we know about. We don't know nothing about nothing, actually, after that. So, right? I mean, that just proves that everything is communicating. The trees are communicating with us. Your dog, they're just not speaking the same language, but we're all speaking the same language through water. And so I write in my book, I said, if we could decode water's messages in some kind of telepathic way, that's the most important discovery since the beginning of time.
Yeah, I'm familiar with water has been used for supercomputers, isn't it, as like a storage?
Yeah, they're starting to use to use water as a computer because it's unlimited storage. They're working on it. They don't have it perfected yet, but they're working on how to do it. Yeah. I thought that was fascinating. It's because water is a liquid crystal, just like the liquid crystal, or they're just like the crystals the silicone crystals in your phone or your computer, or the stuff we're talking on right now.
Yeah. So one of my favorite subjects, well, it sounds strange now, I'm going to say one of my favorite subjects, but chronic pain is something I'm very interested in. Obviously, that's the work that I'm involved in quite a lot. So how does structured water specifically help to reduce chronic pain and improve overall health? I'm briefly interrupting this episode to remind you can now hear an extra No Punches Pulled episode every month with an amazing and almost certainly controversial guest who's not scared to put their head above the parapet. These guests are exposing lies and corruption, sharing their stories of being gaslit or cancelled for telling the truth, and offering real-world solutions to achieving optimal health and maintaining freedom amidst increasing censorship and restrictive regulations. These are the types of episodes I started producing back in 2022, for which I was cancelled on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and deplatformed from LinkedIn. These additional episodes are for subscribers only. For the equivalent of one takeaway coffee per month, you can now become a paid subscriber and receive exclusive access to content the authorities do not want you to hear. I really hope you can support the podcast to help it continue, and also to help me bring you even better, more controversial, educational, and inspiring guests. Subscribing to the Radical Health Rebel podcast is a much more productive investment than supporting organizations that feed you lies, propaganda, and predictive programming like TV licensing, cable, satellite, and major film streaming services. Subscribing to the Radical Health Rebel podcast to receive premium content couldn't be simpler. Just go to the show notes, click on support the show, and follow the instructions. In fact, why not do it right now? And once you've subscribed, come straight back and listen to the rest of the episode. For the equivalent of just one takeaway coffee per month, let's rebel against the mainstream narrative and create a healthier, fairer, and freer world together. Thanks for listening and for your support.
So, chronic pain is, people have chronic pain for a bunch of reasons. It's one of the biggest reasons is chronic inflammation, right? So in my book and in my model, I describe how all these things are interconnected. So chronic pain is chronic inflammation, which is also chronic oxidative cellular stress. The cellular stress is going to cause chronic pain because it's also causing chronic dehydration. So for the listening audience, chronic dehydration is at the root cause of most of your chronic pain. What do I mean by that? Well, when you do the things on the red side of my model, right, it's going to cause you, it's going to contribute to chronic inflammation, which is going to contribute to chronic dehydration, which is going to contribute to chronic pain. So the body uses water in a specific way. And when I started understanding more about water, not just the woo-woo stuff and the experiments with Emoto and Veda Austin, all these things, but the biology or the pathology of water and the physiology of water, and how water is used for everything. Water is the basis of life, but water is more than that. 99 out of 100 molecules in your body are water. When they say your body's 70% water, that is a somewhat correct statement, but water molecules are so light, and there's so many of them, that that's why it's only 70%. Their body's only 70% water, but by molecule, you're 99 out of 100. When I read that statistic, I was like, okay, water's the most important thing. So your body's always trying to regulate water. Okay? When you're stressed out, your body's going to put water into certain organs that are more important, like your heart, your liver, your lungs, your brain. And it's to say, you know what, skin, we love you, but too bad you don't get the water. Does that make sense? Yeah. It has to prioritize water all the time. And when we're living in the world we're living in today, in a constant stressed out society where we're eating cookies and cakes and we're mouth breathing, which is something that's you do not want to do. You're on your phone all the time. We're on our computers right now. All these things are causing stress on the cells. So by definition, it's causing chronic inflammation, and by definition, it's causing chronic dehydration. And then that chronic dehydration, then the body's going, okay, so now we got to manage water still again because you're drinking coffee or you're drinking soda, causing me more dehydration. And so it's always in this constant balance. And so what happens is when you're dehydrated, back to the chronic, why do you have chronic pain? When you're dehydrated, so what happens is the certain cells don't get the water they need to flush the toxins and the waste away and bring them nutrients. It's like a highway. The blood vessels are highways. What I mean by that, I mean that think of the aorta and the bigger ones as freeways. The smaller ones are highways, and the really small capillaries are your city streets. I like to use a lot of analogies because it really helps the listening audience to understand what's really going on for themselves, and they can kind of go, okay, that makes a lot of sense. So when so let's say you're dehydrated, then the houses on the city streets are not getting the water they need, and the trucks that are on the streets are not coming to pull away the waste from their house. Waste builds up in the cells. It's called acidity. That acidity can damage the membranes of the cells as well as the nucleus and the DNA, and the acidity will eat into the delicate structures of the cells, right? Because it's building up because you're causing dehydration. That's a signal. It's pain because the body's like, we got to get rid of this. Drink more water, homeboy. That's kind of what it's saying. Make sense? And so that's one. I know it's a long explanation, but it's one of the reasons. That's one of the reasons people have chronic pain is because we're actually in chronic dehydration all the time. Arthritis. That's your joints are inflamed because you have chronic dehydration. And a lot of doctors don't know this, but you're like, oh, well, so I just got to drink more water, my inflammation and my arthritis goes away. It's not that simple. You have to drink structured water, or you got to stop eating the cookies and the sugar, and you got to stop stressing out. You got to have positive thoughts and emotions. You got to connect to nature. You got to get good sleep. You got to exercise. All those things reduce the cellular stress and reduce the chronic inflammation, improve hydration, and then you're in a much better place. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's quite interesting. It just reminded me, I'm going back 20 plus years. And I remember a client came to see me. She had quite severe lower back pain. And I didn't assess her on the first day, but I said, look, I need to get you back in. Let's reassess you. But from what you've told me, it sounds like you've got some kind of disc issue. And I can't remember why, but there was a reason why she couldn't see me for about a month. I don't know if she was going away or something. And just as she was leaving, she said, is there anything I can do in the meantime? And I just said, make sure you're drinking, I can't remember exactly the amount. It was based on a size, but let's say I said 2 liters of water per day. And then, I know she was due to come and see me in about a month's time. So I followed her up and I said, do you want to arrange a time to come in and see me? And she said, "Oh no, drinking the water did the job. I don't have any back pain anymore." You know,
It's that simple.
and I jokingly say I should have charged her first for solving her back pain, right? But
well, here's the thing too, for the audience listening, is that understand that and she drank the water, which is great, but water is a very aggressive molecule. There's been stories of people drinking like, a quart of water and then having to go to the hospital because all their minerals get depleted, or a lot of them get depleted because the water's not structured. So what the water has to have minerals to structure. So that's what electrolytes are. It's water. It's the reason you need electrolytes is because to structure the water. And so when she was drinking all that water, that's great. I'm glad she didn't have any problems because, like I said, if you don't drink the structured water, then you're at more a risk of depleting your own minerals supply, because the body will pull minerals from itself and its tissues and its bones to help to structure the water. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And when you think about, again, thinking of pain, in a lot of your joints, you've got synovial fluid, right? They lubricate,
which is water,
which is
mostly water. Everything's water.
Yeah, and then you've got discs, in between most of your vertebrae. You've got a disc
which is water.
You've got a disc in the jaw. Your fascia is made up predominantly of water.
Yes.
So it does make a lot of sense. There is a very close link between water and pain.
And hold on, let me say something. Okay. And so what I'll pick it up off of that is, so for our listening audience, understand water is everything. It does nothing else really. I mean, other things matter, obviously, but you've really got to get a handle on water and learn as much about it as you can. So I think the people listening to this obviously like to learn about health and stuff. Read as much as you can about water. You just need to understand water like the back of your hand. Because when you understand water, you're going to understand most everything else when it comes to your health. And like you said, your fascia is mostly water. Your eyes are water. Your skin is 90% water. Your blood vessels are 90 or 80% water. So it makes sense that it's just water. We're basically bags of water with some minerals. I write in my book, we're basically water with a few minerals thrown in for good measure. We're 3 buckets of water with some minerals thrown in for good measure and something to cover the water. That's all we are.
Yeah, from a physical point of view, that's correct.
Yeah.
So do you have any real world examples or personal experience in which structured water has, significantly improved chronic pain in someone? John was a personal trainer and triathlete when he first came to see me, suffering from knee pain for which he'd received physiotherapy, which sadly hadn't proven to be successful. As someone who was passionate about his triathlon performance, John was at his wit's end about his knee, as it was preventing him from training properly. I performed a full assessment on John and gave him a corrective exercise program, and together we came up with a revised triathlon training plan in the short term, which included no running or cycling, plus some medium and long-term goals. John followed the program rigorously, and after 10 weeks, I reassessed John and upgraded his exercise program and added in some appropriate strength work in accordance with the progress that he'd made. Eventually, I gave John the all clear to start running and cycling again, and John slowly started to gain confidence in his knee and consequently increased his mileage, and was extremely pleased to find out that the knee pain not only went away, but never came back. In fact, in his first attempt after completing the rehab program, John managed to beat his 10K run time by 4 minutes. He put it down to feeling much more efficient in his running technique and having a much stronger core. John has gone on to complete many triathlons since all around the world, including Olympic and Ironman distances alongside world-class athletes. If you're in pain and it's preventing you from doing what you'd love to do, and you'd like to achieve great results like John, go to www.bodycheck.co.uk, that's BODYCHEK.co.uk to request your consultation. Now, back to the podcast.
Yeah. I mean, myself, My stepmom drinks structured water. I just find that for me, and I started drinking the structured water and drinking quality water about 6 or 7 years ago. I go to a natural spring where I live here in my area, and I bottle my own water because obviously I know how important water is, and so I bottle my own water. And I've had it tested. So for listening audience, you really want to test it, make sure there's, there's not a bunch of runoff. A natural spring is usually coming from very deep underground, and the rocks and the minerals and the carbon all filter it. You've heard of carbon filters there's carbon filters for water purification, right?
Yeah.
So what's the earth? The earth is one big water filter. So you drink water from a spring, you're getting all that perfect filtration from the carbon. You're getting all the energetics from the sun and from all the minerals in the soil, which have energetics too, energy, which is transferring to the water. You're also taking away the negative energies in the water, because it's basically the minerals and all the energetics of all that interacting with all the microbes in the water are helping to take all that negative polluted energy that's in the water and transforming it into it's releasing all that negative energy. So when someone drinks tap water, let's say, all that negative energy is stored in the water from the pollution, from wherever it's been, because remember, as we talked about earlier in the conversation, water stores everything. So when you're drinking water from a filtration plant, where they're filtering the water, from a water treatment facility, right? All that it's remembering everything that's happening to it. And so that's why you want to drink the best water you can. And also, if someone can't go to a natural spring, let's say, some people don't have them around, they're in a big city, you want to bless your water, thank it. Just like Emoto's experiments and Beta Austin. You say, thank you, water. I love you, water. Thank you for giving me life. You are the most important thing. Whatever, right? Talk to it. Who cares if people see you talking to your water? It's your health we're talking about. And when you do that, what's going to happen? As we discussed earlier, you're going to structure those molecules together into these patterns, these hexagonal crystal-like patterns, which is structuring the water, which is what your body wants. And you spend way less energy structuring it yourself. And so my stepmom, like I said, she's been drinking it for about a year now. She's 71. She hasn't been sick in a year, and she's under a tremendous amount of stress. But she also does a lot of other things on my model and my blueprint I made. My publicist is drinking structured water. My publisher is drinking structured water. It has amazing results. And so it's just, people need to wake up to this structured water is one of the most important things for your health that no one's really considering. And another thing quickly about structured water is that there's a lot of things on the market because it's this kind of new thing, a viral thing. Everyone's it's the fad. And it's not new. It's been around for 1 million years, but people are starting to remember, get back into it again. So structured water, there's different devices, and some will structure for a couple days, maybe a week. It depends on what they're doing and what kind of device they're using. There's so many things on the market. The one I use personally, and all the people around me that have been helped, is something called the MEA device, MEA. And they can go to my website at ultimatehealthmodel.com, and we have all the recommendations of stuff I personally use for my own health, and you'll see it on there. And if they buy them, they get discounts, and so they can see all that stuff. But back to what that is. This gentleman has figured a way to keep the water structured permanently. Now, he's done many experiments on this to prove it's staying permanently structured. And he was challenged about 10 years ago by some scientists in Europe. He went to some conference. I don't know the exact details. He went to some conference, and they were saying, hey, Robert, we want you to structure water permanently. And he'd been studying water for 30 years. He goes, okay, let's figure this out. And so he did, and he did it permanently. And a lot of devices on the market don't do that permanently. Now, I don't know all the devices on the market, but I know his does stay structured permanently, and he has the evidence and the research and the patents to prove it. Okay, so that's why I believe his is important. He's also, I mean, yeah, he has a ton of stuff on his website where I think he's put vegetables and stuff and fruit in structured water, and it stays. It doesn't decay or rot forever. He put some blueberries in some structured water, or something like that. I don't remember. I don't remember the exact experiment, but from my memory, blueberries or raspberries, put them in structured water, and 5 years later, they're still good. So, to me, that means that whatever he's doing is keeping the water structured. And so, I don't know the exact, how it is exactly staying structured. It's his devices that are vortexing the water, and there's a mineral and a magnetic field, because way water structures for our audience, so they understand it, is through all the bases of nature, not the environment. It's all the systems of nature and how nature works. Meaning vortexing. So when the water's in a stream, it flows back and forth, side to side, gently. That's structuring the water. The sunlight and the energetics and the energies and the electromagnetic frequencies, everything's vibration. All those energies, the sunlight energies, infrared, ultraviolet, visible light, all those are structuring the water. The magnetics of the earth, the field, Earth's magnetic field is structuring the water. The minerals in the river are structuring the water. So if you bring that back, and oxygen and all these things, so if you bring that back to your blood vessels, we were talking about this earlier, your body is structuring water to use it. So what's in your blood? It's mostly water. In your blood vessels, in the last few years, they have found and figured out that the blood is actually vortexing in that same pattern in your blood vessels. Because when they open up blood vessels, they can't see that, because obviously the water goes out of them. And the only way they can see that is in vivo, meaning in the actual body. In vitro means in a lab, in a petri dish. In vivo means in the actual system or body or biological system. So they've seen the water actually vortex in that pattern. What's also in your blood? Minerals. What's also getting into your skin through sunlight, and the ultraviolet light and the UVB and the UVA light. I think infrared is more penetrating than the UVA and the UVB. The UVB doesn't penetrate on the skin. The UVA does. That goes into the blood vessels to structure the water. And the minerals we talked about, the vortexing, the magnetic field created by the spinning of the blood and water, and the magnetic and the minerals. You see how it's all interconnected, people. That's why it's so. If you just take a 30,000 foot view and just go, wow, the beauty of nature and the magnificence of what's here, and then they can understand, okay, this is what I've got to do. All the things we've been doing the last 30 years or 50 or 100 or whatever you want to say is taking us away from what's natural. And it's really simple stuff.
Yeah. So one of the things I think most people know nowadays is not to store water in plastic. Now, glass, I think, is generally accepted as being a good container for water. But from what you've said, I would also, if you're going to store water anywhere, I think probably it also matters where you store it as well. Would you agree with that?
Yeah. So I kind of differ on that opinion from what people say about plastic. I store mine in these BPA-free plastic jugs because they're 7 gallons, and it's impossible to go up to the mountains where I get my water and carry a 7-gallon glass jug things can break. So it's just more convenient and practical to store it. And, I do so many things in my book and on my model and my blueprint that offset these effects anyway. So, storing in plastic, so if the plastic gets hot, you don't want to put stuff in a microwave. You never want to use a microwave anyway, period, because that's completely destroying the structure of the water. But if you put them in plastic, it's not hot. As far as leaching goes, you know what? There's studies saying that, it's leaching plastic into the water. I don't know. I mean, that's kind of, that's up for interpretation. I think if it's stored in plastic and it's not hot, you're okay. But you want to put a plastic bottle that's a clear one, obviously, in a car. It's 100 degrees out. The plastic gets hot, then it might leach a little bit into there. But there's so many other things in the world that are we're doing. Leaching a little bit of plastic into your food or your water is, it is what it is. You can do other things to kind of offset that.
Yeah.
As far as storing water, I keep it in a cooler place. Now the water I drink is living water. What do I mean by that? Well, it's got microbes in it and algae, and it's a living thing. And that's why, and I think it's so important to drink that if you can, because the algae and the spirulina, all the different algae forms, the blue-green algae, is beneficial to your health. I mean, if you read studies on that, I've read numerous studies on blue-green algae and cholera. I don't know. One's a disease and one is algae.
Chlorella.
Chlorella, yeah, that's the one that's the algae. And blue-green algae, spirulina, all this stuff is in my water. And people take these as supplements because they're antiviral, antifungal, anti-radiation, anti-everything. So, it's not bad for you. Algae, people take algae supplements. So why are you taking it up if it's bad? So anyway, back to my water. So if mine's in the sun, it'll start to grow stuff, but I still drink it because it's inert and harmless. It's not toxic. And so, but if you can't get water like that, then get regular water and filter it to get the pollutants out. Bless it, thank it. Put some sea salt in it, or bamboo salt, which is really good because bamboo salt is incredible. Bamboo salt has I think all or most of the trace minerals found in nature. It's a little bit expensive, but you put that in some water, maybe some organic lemons juice you find, or lime or whatever, cucumber, anything you can do to help structure it. And as well, like I said, talk to it, bless it, thank it, get the structuring device. I think you don't want to become obsessed like me about water, but you really need to take a second look at it and start thinking more about it that people aren't doing, and they're not respecting it. And that's why I believe a lot of the problems we're having today is because of all the things we're doing in society, that we haven't done 100 years ago. But a lot of it's water.
Yeah.
Because that's causing the dehydration, chronic dehydration and everything else. That's a problem.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I always have a store of water just, for emergencies. You never know, particularly in today's world, that you might be in a situation where, you're stuck, or for me, it might just be my water filter stops working. So at least I know I've always got a store of water to use. And I mean, what I tend to do is it's not in the sun. And that was kind of, I was thinking while you were speaking, maybe it'd be better possibly to put it in the sun, but it's also the furthest away from my Wi-Fi router as well. Although
you go.
That's not very often, to be honest.
That's good.
But it's literally as far away as it can be.
Yep.
Because again, that will destructure the water as well, right? Anything like that.
Yeah, for sure.
So are there any scientific studies or research supporting structured water's benefits in managing chronic pain?
Yeah, absolutely. In my book, there's a study talking about the C word and how structured water might be able to help with that. And I wrote the book. I can't remember what the name of the study is. It's on, it's in the 3rd chapter on biodesign. It's molecular structure of water and the benefits to cancer prevention or something like that. But yeah, I footnoted it because it was so important. There's not a lot of footnotes in my book, references and citations, because I didn't want a book with 1,000 citations, because a lot of them aren't even, trustworthy anyway. But I did put a few in there that are really interesting, and that's one of them. And when they get my book, they can see that it just slips my. I don't remember the exact name of that study, but yeah, there are studies on that, on benefits of structured water and how it can improve health.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah. Yeah. I wouldn't feel bad about not remembering references from your book. But, I mean, I've got 5 books, and I'm sure if people question me on mine, I wouldn't remember half.
Oh, okay, good. All right. Because I feel bad. I'm like, God, I should know every sentence in my book. I don't though. I can't remember.
Some of mine I wrote 16 years ago. So
okay.
Yeah, I wouldn't remember. But so what practical steps can people take to incorporate structured water into their daily routines to help manage chronic pain?
Well, just like I said earlier, is put water as your number one focus in your life. Literally. I know it sounds kind of weird and kind of bizarre, but you really do. And I'm not just saying of drinking it, because I say, oh, drink 5 glasses of water a day, blah, blah, blah. I'm talking about the actual respect of it. Understand that that's all you are, is water. And just put that at the forefront of your mind, that this is, and do whatever you can to structure it and bless it and thank it. And just, and does that make sense? And there's a study, actually, I was reading I had on my podcast earlier this week, a gentleman named Dr. Nathan Bryan. Yeah, he's a very well-known guy in the nitric oxide space. Very nice guy. And in his book, and this wasn't even talking about structured water, this was just water in general, which is really a fascinating statement and fact. They said the people that drank 5 glasses or more of water a day, and this is men, I believe, like I said, don't quote me exactly on the statistic, had a 46% reduced risk of getting a heart attack. And I thought, wow, that's pretty big. And women, and this was like men 40 to 50. I don't remember the exact statistics, but just to suffice to say, it was a 46% reduction in heart attack risk. And women, same thing, was like a 63%. That might be a little too high. But when I read that statistic, I was like, just drinking water, and that's not even structured water. And I was like, wow, this is incredible. So once again, for the listening audience, is, I highly suggest you go to my website, ultimatehealthmodel.com, and go to my recommendations page and look at that MEA device and just start researching it. Just understand it. He has, you click on there. He has, I think, 50 articles he's written, research articles that I've read. I've read most of them on his website. They're fascinating about structured water. And so they can just learn. Google, you can learn anything on Google on your phone. Just start reading about water and its importance and its magnificence, and educate yourself. And that's all you can do. And then I'm confident you're going to feel better in some aspect just with drinking structured water. Not to mention everything else on my model and my blueprint. It's the way I look at it is that the body is a self-healing miracle machine. If we get out of its way, it can do what it needs to do. And a million years ago, there were no doctors. When I wrote my book, I'm like, okay, so if this body we have here in nature is, self-sustaining, a circle of life, everything is kind of perfect, then I kind of work my way backwards from that. I go, if everything's perfect, then let's dig into some research and some articles and go, okay, well, if this happens because of this, maybe it's good because of this. So I would just always ask questions about, well, this doesn't make sense because the body's not going to do anything that's not in perfect harmony with what it needs to do every second of every day. Literally, every second of every day, the body is in perfect harmony, doing exactly what it has to do all the time, without question.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. So as a Czech practitioner, I teach my clients that there are 6 foundational factors to health, and they're in a priority order. Number 1 is your thoughts, right? Number 2 is breathing. Number 3 is hydration. Number 4 is nutrition. Number 5 is movement. Number 6 is sleep and rest. And
that's it. Well, it's interesting you say that because mine, I have the same kind of list, obviously, in my book. I like how you say diet is way back there. And I say the same thing. So in mine, it goes breathing. I think breathing is number 1, personally. Thoughts, emotions, and breathing are neck and neck. I had to make a call in my book, and so I just put breathing first. Then I put sleeping. I put structure water next. Then I put food. Then I put exercise. Then I put toxins. Then I put thoughts and emotions. But yeah, it's so hard because they're all interconnected. To try to say which one's more important is really tough.
But ultimately, the idea is that unless you have got all 6 in place and you're nailing all 6, anything else you're going to try is kind of irrelevant, really, because you can try and biohack this and biohack that, but unless you've got those foundations in place, the building is just going to fall down anyway. You can try papering over the cracks, but you need those 6 foundations in place.
Yeah, and I like how you say that about if you have the foundation in place, because there's all these biohackers out there. Do this, do that, do this. It's like, okay, you take this particular supplement. If you take this supplement, NAD, it's going to. That's it. That's all you got to do. Or now there's this thing about the carbon 15 saturated fat that's supposed to be the miracle molecule of life, and that's what's. I think it's carbon 15 they're talking about. It's a saturated fatty acid. I was seeing some videos on that, read some articles. Same thing. It's like, oh my God, it's carbon 15. That's it. That's the miracle. No, like you're saying, it's everything combined. And I'm wearing this necklace because of the EMFs, because it does help to block them. The glasses are helping to block the blue light. But when you're saying we're talking about biohacking, I mean, this is kind of biohacking, but it's not saying, and this is just, from the beginning, we had to do this because, blue light coming out of our computers is not natural light like it is in sunlight. But biohacking, like you're saying, that's different. That's where they're talking about, this particular supplement. I agree with you on that. No, it's not one thing.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if you're familiar with Paul Chek. He's from California, and he says you shouldn't biohack, you should bioharmonize.
That's it.
Right.
Yeah. No, I'm not familiar with him, but that's really, I'm glad you brought that up because I read a book called The Water Codes, which is fascinating, about talking about water and its energetics and the frequencies of everything around us, either harmonizing or causing what's resonance, dissonance, harmonics. And it's almost like the when the water molecules are in resonance, they're in harmonics. And that was fascinating to me, almost like music. So that's why music and sounds helps to structure water, because you can almost think of each organ in your body as a different key or a different a note on a musical scale. So maybe, and this is just this is like just a theory, possibly. The liver is a C chord or a C note, and the brain is an A note, and the liver or the heart is the D note. I don't know, but in music, because I play guitar, you can see my guitar in the background. There's harmonics, and certain frequencies go together, and when the waves come together and they're in harmony, and there's a frequency, there's amplitude, all these different things that I don't want to confuse the listening audience, but suffice it to say, when they come together in harmonies, the waves, that's like a musical chord, which would be like a C, D, and a G. And so I just thought to myself, well, maybe each organ is a certain, musical note. I don't know. It's just everything is connected. I just find I'm always learning and thinking about things, as you can see. I do a lot of thinking.
Yeah, I mean, cymatics is the study of that, isn't it? And they normally use sand or powder, don't they? And they put a vibration through. It's normally on almost like a drum surface, and they put powder on it. And they play music through it, and it will change shape depending on the music that's coming through.
That's fascinating. Yeah.
And sometimes they do it with water as well.
Yeah. So when they use that with water, and they put different vibrations through there, and it creates different, molecular cool patterns and structures and crystalline patterns in the water. If your body's water, so it's obvious there. You can see it right there, or in the sand. That's it.
Yeah, I mean,
and so that's why humming, is or song or humming. The ancients, the monks, and they hum.
Yeah,
they go hum. And I'm still kind of a Buddhist. I don't really practice they have the different things that it's called Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, but that humming sound, Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, that is probably structuring the water too.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's why you also have to think about the thoughts that you have when you're, because your body's made of water, right? You got to think about the thoughts you're having. Are you thinking positively, thinking negatively?
Yeah.
Are you around people that are arguing all the time? What's that doing to you? Or are you arguing with people all the time? What's that doing to your health? It's a very important thing to consider, and to really consider very carefully the people that you surround yourself with, because you really don't want to be in an environment where people are just at each other all the time. You want to be in a loving environment where you're infusing each other's cellular water,
absolutely,
with good vibrations, as the Beach Boys once said, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, to that point, this is all common sense. If people really just take a step back and go, well, what makes sense? There's anger and frustration and, eating processed food that we didn't have before, or our computers. I mean, just think about what's logical. This is not rocket science, I don't think. And so if people get out of their own way and just kind of just go, okay, let's go with a blank slate. Let me just try to, whatever Benjamin's saying here, let me just kind of go with a blank slate, get his book, go to his website, and just understand these things from a real basic level.
Yeah.
I'm confident you're gonna get better in some aspect.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Awesome. So what's next for you, Benjamin?
Next for me is just doing more podcasts. Getting some interesting guests on my podcast. I have this lady, hopefully, my publicist reached out to her. She is the founder of something called aquaphotomics. And what it is, it's the study of what we're talking about here, water, the way water interacts with light, and the different frequencies of the visible spectrum and the ultraviolet and the infrared. And she's been able to figure a way to map it out into individual frequencies and wavelengths in the water structure. I'm kind of talking off. I don't even know. It's so complicated, but so fascinating. That's the kind of conversations I like to have on my podcast. Is something that people don't talk about or know about. And so that's what's coming up for me, is just getting these kind of guests on, getting my message out there, because I'm not a celebrity. And I'm just a small town guy, but what I have to share is really important. So it's getting the message out there the best I can about my book and my model and my blueprint. Because everywhere I look around, you're in England, I'm in the United States, I'm sure you go to the store and you see these people, you look like you're in fairly good shape too. It's like, but you look at these people, they're overweight, or they're hobbling around. They're 40 years old, they're, hobbling around, or they're overweight, or they're, they don't look like they're well. And I know for me, I don't know about for you, but I just look at them and go, there really is a better way. you don't have to live like this.
Yeah.
So it's kind of frustrating for me. I'm like, this is not, the media and everything's made so complicated, but it's really simplistic. It's 1 + 1 is 2.
Yeah.
And it's not simple.
Yeah.
It's not, hold on. It's simple, but it's not easy. It's not easy to get away from carbs. It's not easy to stop we're using our computers right now. It's not easy to do these things, but do the best you can.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's all I tell people is do the best you can.
Yeah. I mean, I think one thing is clear is the further you move away from nature, the more likely you're going to be unwell. And the more you move towards a natural environment, the more you're going to be healthy. And
that's it. That's simple.
Structured water is one of those things.
That's simple. Yes.
So where can people find you online? And also give a shout out to your podcast, and also just mention again your book before we sign off.
Yeah. So it's the book is Why Are You Sick and How to Reclaim Your Health with the Ultimate Health Model. The website's ultimatehealthmodel.com. Our Instagram's Ultimate Health Model. Our TikTok's Ultimate Health. It's Ultimate Health Model. This is how they can remember that. Yeah. The name of our podcast, oddly enough, is the Ultimate Health Model Podcast. Our first, we just started this a couple weeks ago. Our first episode will be out this week. Ultimate Health Model Podcast on Spotify, Apple, all these things. But what I really encourage people to do is obviously go to my website too, and look at that recommendations page. Look at the information on there, because we talked about today. The water filters are on there. All these things they can use for their health. There's mouth breathing strips they can put on their mouth to keep their mouth closed at night. And it's, these are things I use myself, but these are things that are going to help them along their journey. Plus the book, plus the podcast, anything we can do to help people feel better.
Yeah. Awesome. Great stuff. Benjamin, thank you so much for your time today. It's been really enlightening. And it's interesting. I was on a podcast a couple of months ago, so the episode's not out yet, but the host, I happened to turn up and I took my own water with me, as I always do. And he kind of said, "Oh, what kind of water have you got?" It was intrigued. It was intrigued in terms of the water, and I said, "Well, it's filtered, it's remineralized, and it's restructured." And he said, "Oh, what's restructuring?" And I said, "Well,
oh, there you go."
I said, "Well, I could try and explain it." I said, "But I don't feel like I could explain it to an 8-year-old, so therefore I'm not even going to try."
Yeah.
So, and then he said, "Oh, how do you restructure it?" And I said, "Well, I've got this crystal wand, and you stir it." And he was a little bit like, "Well, I'm not sure if that's a gimmick, or that's could be wasting your money." So it's great that we've had this chat, and maybe I'll forward it on to him.
Yeah, there you go. Let's be quickly before we go.
Yeah,
the crystal wand you're talking about. I don't know how long it stays structured with that, but I know that's a good. It's a Gardner or something. It starts with a G, right? It's
no, the one that I use, it's called analemma.
But it's a wand, because that's been around for like 20 or 30 years or something. Because I remember learning about that before I even wrote my book about 20 years ago. It's a wand, and those are really, really beneficial as well.
Excellent. So that's all from Benjamin and me for this week. But don't forget to join me same time, same place next week on the Radical Health Rebel podcast. Thanks for tuning in. Remember to give the show a rating and a review, and I'll see you next time.